All right, hello guys. We should be live. Let me make sure on the laptop real quick, and then we'll get started. I think we should be good to go. Yes. All right. Let me pop out chat. And today's stream, we're going to be talking about Tywin Lannister, mainly focusing on kind of his life before the main story, with a lot of these character analysis. I like to, especially looking at characters that kind of have a backstory that's very prevalent before a Game of Thrones. I like to really talk about what makes them the character that we see in the normal story. What gets them to that point. Also, hi Ghost, how are you? Jesse commented. I saw this comment a little bit before I started the stream, but Jesse says, I don't like fans that admire or defend Tywin. His accomplishments aren't that impressive to me. So as we're going to go through in this video, I would disagree on the idea that Tywin didn't accomplish much. I think in Tywin's actual life, he accomplished a lot. I think his legacy and the way he treated his children was his undoing to his own legacy. But as we see, like, through his upbringing and his story, he takes a house that was very much in the decline, in the Lannister house. They were losing power. They were basically being taken advantage of, and he brings them back up into this very prominent role. He becomes an extremely, I think he is the youngest Hand of the King when he is made Hand of the King. He is this person that does a lot for House Lannister, and maybe he does them in bad actions that, again, should not be admired. But the way he goes about things and the cruelty that he is able to do, he gets into places, you know, being completely able to stay out of a war and then also ending up on the good side and your daughter becomes queen is a pretty big power move without losing really any Westermen at all. Hi Ultra, how are you? I mean, he did accomplish a lot. If only he was a good father. Yeah, that was his biggest flaw, was that he was someone that wasn't a good father. He was someone that was very hypocritical, as we're going to see. Like, he takes on that idea of having a mistress and whoring. Tywin takes that from his father, Tydos. Tydos did the same thing. He had mistresses, and that also goes into Tyrion as well. Also, guys, I tried to do what you guys said last stream or last week of doing honey in the tea. I put a significant amount of honey in this tea, and it's not so good. I don't think it's that good. I'm going to keep it honest. It's just not like, I don't know. I mean, I do have a really large cup, so, like, maybe I need a ton of honey for you to really, like, feel it, but, like, I don't know. Also, before we get into Tywin's life, I got some new art. So I got the Eye of Sauron in the background, which, you know, that's mainly for the second channel. I've been kind of slacking on uploading on the second channel, but I'm going into finals for college, and it's just getting to be a pain. So, you know, trying to you know, upload on there. Exactly, Ghost. I agree. Hi, Tevin. How are you? How was your day? But let's get into Tywin and his life. So he was, when was he born? He was born in the year 242 AC. So again, he is a fairly older guy by the time we get to the normal story. He is, I would say significantly older than, like, characters like Ned and those types. But he was the firstborn of Tytos Lannister and Jane Marbrand. Now, Lord Tytos was not a great ruler. He was someone that is, I think, reminds me a lot of Viserys. He is someone that tries to people please a lot. He is someone that gets pushed around. He lets people take advantage of him. And it's kind of how I view Viserys. Viserys, this character, and I'm talking about book Viserys, is that he gets pushed around a lot as king, and he doesn't really, I guess, have that bit of fear that I think a lot of rulers have that works so well, like a Jaehaerys. And that's kind of what Tytos is. And it's the kind of the reason where, if you look at Tywin and when he grows up, Tytos constantly wanted to be loved. He wanted to be a loved ruler. And Tywin, being a very impressionable younger kid, sees how this is going, like how the Westerlands are being ruled. And he sees that love is not really, in this world, what gets you ahead. And quickly, we're going to see as Tywin becomes this kid that instils fear more than he does love. It's that idea that if we look at like a character like Daenerys, she doesn't want to rule like a dictator. She doesn't want to be this person that's feared. She wants to be more loved. And that's the thing. And that's what so many people struggle with in this world is the balance of how do you have fear but also have love. And that's something Tywin leans completely into fear. Tywin is not something that's a loved individual. He is maybe by the Westerlands because, again, he keeps them safe and he's made the Westerlands, their power is even higher. I mean, as we'll see with when he becomes Hand of the King, there is a tournament for Viserys's birth where the crowd is literally applauding more for Tywin than they are for Aerys. So there's that. Hi Casper, how are you? Finals are coming. I'm in the same boat. Yes, Dan. I had to do my final paper for the semester today. I finished it up today. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a weekend, been getting school stuff done, trying to prepare for finals. I injured my back on Friday doing a workout, so it's been an interesting weekend. I have excuses as to why I haven't uploaded on the Lord of the Rings channel, my second channel, if you guys haven't watched it, but yeah, no, sometimes just stuff happens. We get in the summer, things will be more consistent. Oh my god, I need way more honey in that tea. But getting into as Tywin grows up, there's only a couple notable things we get to, kind of before he goes to the War of the Nine Penny Kings. Now, the first one is this kind of idea of who was Jenna going to marry? And this, to me, is one of those marriages that makes absolutely no sense. Jenna marrying Emmon Frey. Again, Emmon Frey at this point is the second son of Lord Walder Frey. So she's not even this Lannister daughter. Again, the Lannisters are the powerhouse in the Westerlands. It's like, think about it. It's like if the Starks said, okay, let's marry Sansa, for instance. Let's marry Sansa to, like, the Marbrins, for instance. It's like, it doesn't really make any sense. I know the Freys are more powerful than, say, the Marbrins, but... And then you're also not marrying the person that's going to be in charge of the twins. You're marrying the second in line. It's a terrible match. And Tywin, at the age of 10, sees how terrible of a match this is. So when I talk about how the reason Tywin becomes the person he is because he sees all these weaknesses in his father, and he doesn't want those things to impact him. And that's something we're going to see with again, his brothers as well, with Kevin and Tyget as they kind of try to restore the Westerlands and the Lannister power. But, again, not a great idea. And this really, the worst part of this is that it's kind of put on spotlight. Like, there's all of these Western lords there, too. It's not something where it's like, oh, you know, there's this discussion in a hallway. Like, this is openly in front of everybody. Like, Lord Reyne, pissed off. Because, again, he thought, hey, maybe his daughter should be marrying her. That's a decent match. Still not a great match. But, I don't know. Good to hear you're using honey in your tea now. Casper, I don't like it. It doesn't, like, I can't taste the honey at all. I just, like, maybe I didn't put enough in. I put, like, a teaspoon in. But, like, I can't even taste it at all. I can't taste the honey at all. Like, this is basically just, like, straight green tea right now. Which isn't great because green tea is, like, very... Like, by itself, without any, like, sugar in it or anything, like, in it to help with the flavor, it's very bland. Tea is just gross. Violet, I used to think the same way. I can't drink cold tea. I think cold tea is disgusting. I like warm tea, and the only reason I really drink warm tea, I don't drink it very often. I only drink it actually before these streams or during the streams for my voice. Because sometimes just doing streams, recording, like, it just hurts my voice, or my throat, I guess, so the tea kind of helps with that. But this will then kind of lead us to this idea of Tyto sends Tywin to go to King's Landing. He ends up being a royal page and a cupbearer to Aegon the Fifth. So, we see some overlap here as well. What could be interesting, and when we get the Dunk and Egg show, is that if, say, we got some of Aegon's, reign, would we see a young Tywin? That would be pretty cool. But we see from an early age that Tywin befriends some very powerful people. He befriends the young Aegon, or not Aegon, Aerys Targaryen, the quote-unquote Mad King. Stefan Baratheon, Stannis, Robert, and Renly's father. And that's a pretty big trio. That's like, I'd say if you're looking at Robert's Rebellion, that's like the trio of Robert, Ned, and Jon Arryn. That's kind of like your trio, except they're all around the same age. And we also see, at this point in King's Landing, we see Joanna Lannister, Tywin's future wife. She was serving as a companion and lady-in-waiting to Princess Rhaella Targaryen. Sorry, I'm late. I was just watching the Glidus stream. No problem, Jesse. Jesse, I also answered your chat earlier, but I agree when you say, like, I don't think people should admire Tywin or defend Tywin on the idea of, like, he's not a good person. Like, he's definitely a villain. He does a lot of pretty bad atrocities to people. He's not very kind. He does things that are very not good. But I think he does accomplish a lot. I think the moral of the story is going to be Tywin in his life accomplished a lot, but because of his kids and the way he treats his kids, it kind of undoes his whole life. I think that's the whole idea with Tywin. And again, moving back into Tywin's life, this is going to kind of get us to 260 AC with the War of the Nine Penny Kings. And you're going to see a ton of people here. We're going to see a ton of people in this war. People like Barristan, like Kevin Tygett, like Tywin, like their uncle Jason Lannister. There's going to be the Blackfishes here. There's a ton of people at this war, right? We have a lot of people that interact here. And again, the Westermen have 11,000 men going to this war, so they're bringing in a pretty significant amount of men. And this is where we see a lot of people getting knighted. So again, at the start of this, Tywin was just serving. He was a squire. Eventually, he gets to become knighted, and he gets to knighthood. And then he also knights his friend, Aerys. So that kind of gets us where we're out of the War of the Nine Penny Kings. Tywin is this hardened, I guess maybe not warrior would be the type, but he is someone that's gone through a war. He is someone that's aged and grown up, and he's someone that's kind of realized what his power could be. And so he goes back to Casterly Rock. And again, we see Tydos is, again, continuously being a weak ruler. People just don't respect him. They don't care about his authority. And this is where, like, the Tywin and the brothers trio, they just come on in. And we see them kind of trying to figure out what we can do. How can we fix it? Whether that's taking out these rebellions going on, or not, maybe not rebellions is maybe not the right word, but let's say criminals, robber knights, outlaws that are in the land that have kind of run rampant. And how do we get these debts back? It's all about that. How are we going to centralize the power back to the Lannisters? I mean, if I was in this world and wanted to raise my house to the top, I'd probably do the same thing and also be a good parent. Yeah. And again, I don't blame Tywin on the way he looks at it, at the world, just based upon his, I guess, upbringing. And that's a common theme George does constantly, and he does it really well, is how was a character in those key years of, like, being born to coming to manhood, like, in this world, it's like 16. What happens in that time period will really define who you are as a character, or as a person. There are not a lot of people that are able to change in this world. Like, they're not able to see their flaws and kind of change. Now, characters like a Jon, he is a character that actually does this. He's someone that changes and evolves. I'm in book 1 right now. I just got done doing my notes for the chapter I'm going to try to record after this. And we see how Jon, at the very beginning of the book, is this character that's kind of arrogant. When he goes to the Watch, he is someone that he hates the rest of the people there. He doesn't like them. He thinks that they're kind of like beneath him. And he has that kind of privilege to him that a lot of highborn people do. And he's able to change his ways through help of people like Tyrion and Donal Noy, Gior Mormont. So again, that is a really great characteristic. Someone like Tywin doesn't really change like that. He's set in his ways once he gets into his personality. Tywin being a squire is so weird to me. Yeah, it is weird. Tywin has no empathy due to his obsession of being perfect. I think it's that idea mixed with the idea that he wants kind of absolute power. Like, he wants his family and his legacy. It's, again, this big idea of legacy. What do we leave when we die? And I think Tywin's big thing was he wanted his family to be on the throne, and he wanted it like written down in history that he was the reason his family got to the throne. God, that tea tastes horrible. But yeah. So this kind of leads our Lannister faction back to Casterly Rock, the Westerlands. We also know at this point that Tydos had a mistress, and this is something that Tywin does not like, but we know he partakes in this as well. So it's an interesting dynamic that, is this one of those things where Tywin hates that Tydos has this like problem, like basically disrespecting his mother, and then he also takes on that characteristic from his father as well. It's an interesting way that we look at the way Tywin treats women, and I think it's more that Tywin doesn't like that it's so public, like that Tydos has a mistress. And Tywin kind of goes about, he starts going, we need to start getting all these debts back. If you can't pay your debt back now, you have to send a hostage to Casterly Rock. He then gives Kevin Lannister command of 500 veteran knights tasked with ridding the Westerlands of robber knights and outlaws. We see Harris Swift surrender his daughter, Dorna, who ends up being Kevin's wife. So that comes of this. And Roger Reyne apparently laughed at Tywin. So this, again, comes into this idea of people laughing at his father, and now people laughing at him. It's why Tywin does not like laughter. It's one of those reasons. He doesn't like being disrespected. He doesn't like that idea. And when Lord Walderand Tarbeck of Tarbeck Hall rode to confront Tydos about this, because again, the way they are all going to be seen, the Lords of the Westerlands, is like, Tydos is still in charge. So why is this young man, or young boy in their eyes, ordering us around? So they go and talk to the father, Tydos, who is presumably still in control. Now, Tydos at this moment actually wasn't even there at Casterly Rock. So when he gets there, Tywin imprisons him. And this starts kind of this standoff, because now it's like, okay, Walderan's wife, Elaine, or Ellen, or however you want to say her name, responds by seizing Tywin's cousins. So, we now have this issue where, okay, we have hostages on both sides. How is this going to get resolved? Well, Tydos kind of comes back and he's like, yeah, we need to not do this. We need to not, no conflict here. I'm Lord Tydos. I want to please everyone. And Tywin, you're not doing a good job of that. Well, again, if we look at the comparison of someone like Tydos to a Viserys, Tydos is not fixing the problem. He's just kind of kicking it down the can. There's obviously this tension between Tywin and his family, and these lords that are obviously not respecting your authority, like the Tarbecks and like the Castemirs. Or Reign of Castamere, sorry. So, that kind of is the idea that's built here. Let me read chat. Hi, Matthew, how are you? I think Tywin sees his children as accessories. Yeah, Holly. And he uses them like accessories. He doesn't like care about their feelings. He doesn't care about their well-being. He wants them to basically just father, or not father. He wants them basically to further the Lannister line and put his family and his legacy in a good position. Interesting that Tywin never remarried. There's probably reasonable matches for him. Um, yeah, there probably were. Like, he probably could have remarried if he wanted to. I just think if you look at it from Tywin's point of view, he did really, I would assume, love his cousin. We're going to talk about that in one of the questions I got on the community posted about this stream. But I think it's he didn't really want another woman. He really did love his cousin. And then two, I think the other idea is the big thing with remarrying in this world is two things. So one, you want more children. I don't think Tywin really thought he needed more children. He already had Cersei. He had Jaime. I don't feel like he thought he needed more children. Two would be for a political match. And maybe that's something Tywin should have done. Maybe he could have done that. The other issue then is going to be what we saw with like the Dance of the Dragons. Like, how would Tywin remarrying work that way? And maybe his legacy would be a little tarnished. That's all I could think about, really, if Tywin wanted to remarry, because he definitely could have. I don't know. I like how Alt-Shift-X describes Tywin. He wants to be seen as a golden lion that's perfect and above everything else, when in reality he isn't perfect, which we discover when Tyrion kills him. Yes. Tywin, his whole idea with Tywin is how he portrays himself, how people view him. And what I think is so ironic of the idea of, like, we don't, like, basically worry about what the peasants think about us or what the opinions of the sheep, is that Tywin does care about the opinion of the sheep. He wants them to view him in a certain way. And him telling that to Jaime is very hypocritical. And we know, again, that Tywin is very much a hypocrite. He says he shouldn't do things or you shouldn't do things, but then he does them. It's just the way that Tywin portrays himself. We see it constantly. When you're looking at Jaime's campaign, in the end of Dance, basically, or even like Feast or whatever, everyone's always, Jaime's even putting into his mind like what Tywin would do in this situation and how people viewed Tywin, or how Cersei thinks about that all the time, about how people treated Tywin, but they don't treat her that way. That was the whole idea with Tywin, was building up this character, this facade of who he was. Hi, Evie. How are you? Tywin is wolf poop. Okay, fair enough. I'm glad he died on the shitter and was proved that he couldn't shit gold. Yes. I feel like he would have hated it because, for him, it's personal because it's spitting on his mother's memory. And with Tyrion, he could have fours and so you're like Tywin and he'd still hate it. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Ultra. I agree. If only Tywin had to face Edmure Tully in one-on-one combat during the War of the Nine Penny Kings, Edmure for the mill and the win. Yeah, or the War of the Five Kings. I don't know if I said the right thing there. Kaido's mistress also had Tyrion, or Tywin's mother's. Yes, that's a great point. Now that is the second mistress. I'm talking about his first mistress. We haven't actually gotten to his second mistress. He has a second one. That we'll see in a little bit. That's after Tydos dies, but that'll happen in, I think, 6 years, because we're in 261. But yeah, he'll get a second mistress in 267, or he had one at that point. Why didn't Tywin remarry after his wife died, giving to Tyrion? If he hated Tyrion and didn't want to inherit anything, he could have had one more child to pass over to him. That's a great point. I mean, you guys are giving me a great idea for a video just based on this, because it's a really interesting idea why Tywin never did. Because Tywin, he's not like the youngest guy when Joanna dies. Hold on, let's see. Like, how old is? Hold on. When does Joanna die? If you guys know when Joanna died, let me know. Okay, so hold on. So 273 AC is when Joanna dies. So he was 31. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he still very easily could have remarried. Fair enough, Holly. I mean, I could see that. I just don't think Tywin probably wanted to. I think it was one of those things. I love that you. I love that you say love is cousin, not wife. We need everyone to know the incest. Yes, incest is a big thing with the Lannisters. It may have been a little bit closer with Tywin's kids, but Tywin still was doing incest with his cousins. So, yes, he did destroy House Lannister, and it's tough because Tywin does it to himself. But at the same time, it is his children that ruin his legacy. But again, Tywin is the one that did not raise his children correctly. So. I'm good, tired from work. Well, get some rest in, Evie. Get some rest. He became feared after the Tarbeck rebellion, but lost all respect from most nobles. So I actually disagree, Joel. Because when he becomes Hand of the King, one of the things specifically we note, and the Hand of the King stuff is after the Tarbeck rebellion, is that Tywin goes about doing a lot of things that the common person does not like. He started basically changing a lot of the reforms that Aegon V had done that were for the people and not for like the higher up class. And he actually starts reverting that. So he actually starts making a lot of friends within King's Landing in the upper class. Tywin's only redeeming quality is his love for his cousin. I'm going to keep saying cousin every time. But yeah. I don't think Tywin called the hit on Ellie. I believe the mountain was just... Yeah, I think that one, Holly, could just be that Tywin wanted the kids killed, and Elia was just kind of like a... You know, an innocent bystander that, you know, just died. Because it's the mountain. And his cheekbones. Honestly, probably a combination of his arrogance and selfishness. He didn't want to remarry or acknowledge that he might not be able to force through getting his golden son back as heir. Yes. There's a fanfic where Lord Rickard Stark is killed in a hunting accident, and Lady Liaris. Wow, that's an interesting one, Joel. Tywin knew what Gregor would do to Ellie. That's fair. World of Ice and Fire says many lords. I mean, okay. I think let's put it in the idea that I think many lords. Okay. As much as we're saying people hated him, people also probably respected and liked what he was doing. So I would put it at, it was more like, yeah, there were lords that hated him. There were also lords that liked him. Hi Ashley, how are you? One day, guys, I'm gonna bring my cat on the stream. He's kind of old and he's in the basement right now, but one day I'll bring him on stream for you guys. And a Game of Thrones, Tyrion says Lannisters have no friends in the... Well, yeah, again, what I'm saying is Tywin had a lot of friends in like the Westerlands, in the Crownlands, in kind of Old Town, in that area. That's where we see probably a lot more of his friends, not like places like the North, the Vale, the Riverlands. What do you think would have happened if Robb caught Tywin and Kevin instead of Jaime during the Battle of the Whispering Wood? Okay, so you're saying if Tywin and Kevin went there instead, I don't think that Tywin and Kevin would have fallen for the plan that the Blackfish and Robb set up. Because the whole plan was they're going to play on Jaime's arrogance, and I guess Jaime feels like he can't be defeated. And that's the big blunder, because he goes after this kind of like scouting or raiding party, and he gets caught out. Now, one, this would never happen with Kevin and Tywin, because they're more like leaders that lead from the back. So that wouldn't happen. What would end up happening instead would be something like the Mountain would be sent to like get rid of this party, and then they'd maybe catch the Mountain. I don't think what we see happen would have happened the way it does if it was Tywin and Kevin there. I agree on what Ned says about Tywin. I agree, Matthew, on that. Cat stream, please. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Let Elia live and she might be pregnant and you're back at square one. No, you know, that's a fair point. That's a fair idea of why Tywin would want her killed. That's a great point. Tywin equals alternative version of Daemon. Yes and no. I think Tywin was never like the fighter Daemon is. Like, Daemon is much more of a fighter, like more of a hands-on action type of guy. But I can definitely see where you're coming with that. Marburn fumbled the green fork. Rob might have been able to take him unawares. Maybe that's fair. Again, the rebel side of the war and those lords are not going to think of Tywin favorably. Also, they're basically his enemies, like especially in like the book. So, I don't think Tywin would fight the White Walkers. They'll just hang out with Cersei. Yeah, I agree. Anyone else get a Ford ad just now? YouTube putting in them ads. I don't tell you. I do have a Ford though, so that's pretty cool. My entire family has Fords. I have a Ford Focus. My mom has a Ford Focus, and my dad has a Ford Fusion. So yeah. All right. So let's get back into it. So Tydos, he sends all the hostages. They do the hostage swap, back up, whatever. And that doesn't go so well. That doesn't sit right with Tywin. So in Tywin in late 261 AC, he provokes and pokes the bear again. And he tells them to come to Casterly Rock to appear for their crimes. Now, this is a classic move because what does it show from Tywin? One, it's going to say, okay, if you don't come to Casterly Rock, you're not loyal and you're not obedient to your lord. So that gives a basis for Tywin to kill them. And Tywin does have more power than they do. So with that being said, they're like, nah. House Reyne, House Tarbeck, they're like, nah, not feeling it. So Tywin raises an army. Again, doesn't get Tydos' leave. Defeats Waldron in battle. And then destroyed Tarbeck Hall. Now, this isn't the same for the Reynes. They go back, and they go back to Castamere, and they kind of just wait. And Tywin's like, you know, about that waiting thing you were going to do, this isn't going to be a siege. Like, he diverts a nearby stream into Castamere, drowning the Reynes within. A pretty badass way of taking out your enemies. It's brutal as hell, because he killed all of the innocent people that were in there that had nothing to do with their lord's decisions. But if you're going to make a statement to Westeros, that's a hell of a statement. Pixar replaced daily. I feel like each region of Westeros have their go-to buddies. Like the North Vale and Riverlands are cool with each other, while the Westerlands, Reach, and Crownlands are all... Yeah, exactly, Ghost. I'm just kidding. I'll be honest, Jesse, I don't really care about cards either. I know it's like a manly thing. Oh, you're supposed to really like cards and stuff. I don't give a shit about cards. Like, as long as it doesn't break down, all good here. BTW, I made Tywin my bitch. Oh, no. And you restored House of Rain. Oh, no. Oh, no. You should have restored the Blackfires. That'd be cooler. Is it possible that Joanna was Prince Lewin's paramour and Tywin ordered Elia's death as retaliation for that slight? I don't think so. I feel like Joanna and Tywin were like actually like in love or whatever. So I would say no, but you know, I'd be open to it if you give me some evidence, Ashley. Let's not be unfair. Eddard's parents are cousins. Fair enough, Joel. Fair enough. Cersei and Tywin are smart, but just not as clever as Tyrion. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying Cersei's smart. I think Cersei is like a bit above average intelligence, but I wouldn't say she's smart. Everybody just hates the Islands. Yeah, everybody does. Nobody likes the Iron Islands. Mm, House Lannister is blessed by the drowned god. Fair enough, Holly. Do you believe in the Oberyn poisoning Tywin theory in general? Why do you think his body stunk so bad? I think it's a bit far for George to take something. If it's okay, so this is a theory I've kind of changed my mind on about. I really didn't like this theory when I first got into like content creation on my channel. I didn't really like that theory. But now that I've like thought about it, I think it does make sense. Like, how did Oberyn think he was ever going to actually be able to kill Tywin? Especially in like the Lannisters' home field advantage outside of a poisoning type situation. But I think it makes a lot of sense because that way you could create some problems. If Tywin dies, like we see in the normal story, you create some issues. And I think the idea of him smelling bad, it is for one to show that in the inside, Tywin was a rotten person. His legacy is rotten. It stinks. It's not good. It's foul. But I think on the other hand, I think you could take it just literally that Oberyn poisoned him. So I think there's a lot of significance put on his odor and his smell that it almost feels like George is wanting you to maybe come up with that theory. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on that. I'll make the Blackfires my bitch too. Never. Jaime the Soldier Boy and Tyrion the brains and the bold of the yes. Long live House Targaryen and House Reyne. Yeah, Matthew is a little feisty today, Ashley. I don't know. He just seems a little feisty. I've heard Tywin stinking is a reference to Russian literature. Haven't read it. I couldn't tell you. How did Oberyn slip poison to Tywin? Could be a number of ways. Just could be just in his food, in his drink. Could be any of those things. How long does it take for the poison to take effect? Don't a few weeks pass between Oberyn arriving and Tywin dying? Yeah, I would assume so. I don't know the exact timeline though. Oberyn Duran's plan wasn't to kill Tywin, it was to kill his grandchildren and exact a public confession about Elia's murder. Yes, I think that's what Duran's plan was. I think Oberyn, being kind of the hothead he always was, yes, he was tempered by Duran. I think Oberyn could have taken more of a pragmatic look. Like, what does killing Joffrey do? Like, that's the way I would have looked at it if I was Oberyn. What does killing Joffrey do? And you could look at it as, okay, you know that Tyrion would probably be accused, just based on logically, that's how the story goes. So you could maybe get Tyrion on your side. Then you go ahead with your plan of crowning Myrcella, I guess, or going with the Targaryens. I think Oberyn could have seen this as killing Tywin, that's the power of the Lannisters. It's not Joffrey, it's not Tommen, it's not Cersei, it's not the power behind the Lannisters is Tywin. So that's how I think he might have rationalized. But you think Tywin would abandon Cersei since she goes too far with her actions, killing Grey Worm's girl? I think Tywin would be all down for what Cersei was doing, but I think Tywin would have gone a step further. I'm drinking Chinese tea. Interesting. Oberyn says he's going to fight the mountain before he leaves the water ground. But see, Jesse, what I'm trying to say is that makes more sense. Oberyn being able to fight the mountain is not something that's unachievable, right? Fighting Tywin and killing Tywin, which would be your end goal, I would assume, since Tywin's the one that ordered it, right? It's kind of like a step. It's like, okay, you kill the mountain. Now, who ordered the mountain to do it? Tywin. So then you'd move on to Tywin. But how are you going to kill Tywin in combat? Like, that's just never going to happen. It's unachievable. So I could have been an idea of Oberyn kills the mountain, and then you poison Tywin. I don't know. But you can't support Rhaenyra's claim and then support Daeron. Jesse, you have a solid point there. You have a solid points there. But I'll just stand behind. I'm a Rhaenyra boy for life. Interesting, Ashley. I've never seen that annotation, so I'd have to look at that. In young Griff, we trust. Exactly, Ghost. Who smuggled onions into Tywin's body. I could see it. I could see it. Also, let me guys know. Did you guys, if you guys watched it, did you guys like the reaction video I did on Saturday? Let me know. Do you guys want me to do more content like that? Because I could always like react to like Preston Jacobs' Winds of Winter series. I could do other stuff like that. Let me know. Did you guys like that? Let me know down in chat, or people that are watching this later. Like, let me know. Did you guys like that? Because I don't know if I'm going to do more of that or not. I really enjoy doing that because it's like looking at other people's ideas that maybe are a little bit different than my own and then putting my side of it on it. But I don't know. That really depends on like how you guys like it. And I know Dunk and Egg is never like, on this channel specifically, Dunk and Egg never does well. Those videos never do well. Anything Dunk and Egg related, or even like Targaryen history videos really don't do well on this channel. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he was slowly poisoning him. Yes, I agree. I generally think reaction videos are lazy. Yeah, that's a fair opinion to have. I mean, the thing with reaction videos, and that if I was going to do reaction videos, I don't want it to be at like where it's, oh, I just put somebody else's video on and then I just like nod my head and agree with what they're saying or stuff like that. Like, for instance, my reaction video to Bridges' video was like 3 times longer just because I was pausing like every 5 to 10 seconds and like breaking down exactly what he was saying and stuff. So I don't know. I definitely can see that, Jesse. But yeah, I don't know. Killing Joffrey wasn't about power. It was to atone for the murder of Rhaenys and Aegon, a life for a life. Also stripped Tywin of all he held dear is his legacy. Yeah, but the idea of his legacy, Tommen made ruling much easier for Tywin. Like, Tywin, I don't think was like, he was pissed that somebody took a stab at the Lannisters, right? But I don't think sitting here that, like, Tywin gave a shit about Joffrey. Like, I think he saw Tommen coming to the throne as like, like, I'd much rather have it be that way. I liked your reaction video, Grease. I wouldn't mind another one. Okay. I see House Lannister being stripped of the lords and the lady title. I'll be happy to live in rock that got gold. Fair enough. Your reaction actually expanded my opinion on the theory. Well, that's good to see, Ashley, because, well, my thing with that theory and why I wanted to do that video was specifically because I hadn't heard of the theory really before. Before watching his video, I hadn't really heard any of the evidence for it, so I was kind of going into that video blind. I'd watched like the first like 3-4 minutes, so I knew what the video was about. And it was kind of me like just rationalizing what somebody else's opinion could be, what the counter arguments of his idea could be. So I kind of liked that portion of the video, but I don't know, because like, I don't know. Because the problem with this channel as you go further, right? And I'm talking like longevity of said channel, is you can only do so much Song of Ice and Fire stuff when there isn't really new content. Now that is being fixed with things like House of the Dragon coming out and Dunk and Egg coming out, whatever. But like, there's only so much things you can do. Like, right, Winds of Winter, like I've done basically a prediction on every major, even like major minor character in the coming out, that I don't specifically want to keep like recycling that. And then theories, it's like I only like covering theories that I either like or ones that I find interesting. And a lot of theories I just don't find interesting. I think they're just very outlandish at times. So, you know, it's just an interesting way of like having a fresh idea, or not maybe a fresh idea, but a fresh video that doesn't feel like it's kind of like we've talked about it before, I guess. Let me go back up. I missed some. I went on a tangent there. I did too. Keep up the good work, man. I haven't read Dunk and Egg, so I didn't have anything to say about it. But well, of course, thank you about that. But you should definitely read it. I haven't read the book. I said this in the video. I loved the audiobook. For people that don't know, the audiobook that's on Audible is done by the actor who plays Viserys in Game of Thrones. He does such a great job, and he really he did it where I think Song of Ice and Fire does this really well already, but he was able to really put you into the world. Also, I know we're getting off topic from Tywin, but there's just stuff we need to talk about. Young Griff will save King's Landing from the treacherous Lannisters, then steal one of Daenerys's steal one of Daenerys's dragons and then use it to kill her. Then he'll be crowned King of Westeros. I'd love that ending, Ghost, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm a big Young Griff guy. Don't see it happening though. Oberyn would have killed all of Cersei's children, no, not just Joffrey. That's a fair point, Ashley. Yeah, it was a good reacting degrees. Okay, I'm glad you guys liked it. I liked the reaction video and would like to see more of that. Okay, love to see that. If you guys have any more that you want me to react to, let me know. But I think I'm gonna try to message Preston Jacobs and see if he'll respond. I don't know if he'll respond. I'm not that, we're not that big of a channel. My Instagram's not, yeah. But I'll see if, he responds it, because I was gonna do one of his, but I want to make sure he's okay with it, because I know, some people do not like reactionary, content, especially on their own content. So, I want to make sure if I'm doing that people are okay with it. I think he was okay with Joffrey dying because it allowed him to get rid of Tyrion too. That's also true. Not Marcella, since she was in Dorne, but Cersei's son's the male heir. Yeah. Since we're all pretty opinion on being potentially poisoned, you could do a video, I think. So, Ashley, this is my problem, though. I've already done a video on that. I'm pretty sure. I've done it maybe once or twice on the channel. Now, could I react to somebody else's? I could. And that's the interesting thing of reacting, right? Is that I can look at what other people may suggest as evidence that maybe I wouldn't put as evidence because of this reason, that reason, whatever. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to Grease's other channel at the Goblin King for Lord of the Rings content. Yeah. If you guys want to subscribe to that, I'm trying to get more consistent with that channel, but with uploading on here a lot, it's, yeah, and school, but I'll get there. Tywin mourns Tom and Myrsa. Not you, Joffrey. How the heck did I miss it? Oh, it was a while ago, Ashley. It was a while ago, though. Probably. I think I have one on it. I think your theory videos would do better if you devoted part of your screen to displaying quotes from the book to help make it. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, Jesse, on editing and stuff like that. But I don't know, theory ones, I just don't do theory videos very often because there's just a lot of them on those. But and theory videos do well. Those are not the videos I'm talking about where I'm they don't do well. But it's the videos that aren't theory. Like character analysis do really well when they're either a current story character or they're a character that they're very popular at times. But those videos, and the reason I shy away from doing those sometimes is because they take the most work. And that's why I like doing this on stream, because it's basically like doing a character analysis video like I used to do every week, but putting it on a stream where it's it's a lot of content to go through, so it is a decent amount of work, but it's also interacting with you guys, so it's more fun for me. Marcella isn't safe. Safe in Dorne. I'm sure she wants to go home. I agree. But what I do know, I don't have a channel. Yeah, I mean, Jesse, no, you add fair criticism though. I mean, that's fair criticism, displaying quotes from the book and stuff like that. I think that's fair criticism. Yeah. I love reactions, but only if they make commentary. So yeah, Violet, that's a key thing for me if I would do reactionary content, because reactionary content is, again, you should be, if you're going to do a reaction video, and this is what people don't do, this is what drives me nuts about people that do reaction videos, is one, if you're reacting to a video, you should be adding something to it. So whether that's commentary, more information, if you're reacting in a way that's transformative to the original content. But if you're sitting there and you're just kind of not saying anything and you're not doing anything, you're basically just stealing someone's content. You're basically just re-uploading it. And, you know, you should be actively wanting like that person to gain like subscribers or people that have never seen, for instance, maybe Bridge 4. That's probably a bad example because he's more of a bigger YouTuber. But say I did it like on like what's a good example? So like say House of the Stag, right? Let's say who I collab with. Say I did, and I'd never collabed with him. You got none of you in the chat knew who that was. Say I reacted to his channel. That would get people from my channel to maybe watch more of his videos. That's what reaction content should be. It should be, oh, okay, well, you're putting a spotlight on their content, getting people to subscribe over there, and, you know, transforming their original content as well. But yeah, so getting back to Tywin. So Tywin gets this reputation from all of this rebellion, and again, there is a song that I think we all know, the Rains of Castamere, that comes out of this. He even kind of threatens Lord Farman with this because he was being a little sketchy. And so again, it's the idea of fear. Tywin kind of learns that fear and respect is worth more than love. And that gets us to the era of Tywin as Hand of the King. And like I mentioned, Tywin does a lot of things that are popular for some people, not popular for other people. And Tywin becomes the youngest man to serve as Hand. He is someone that is the Hand of the King for his friend Aerys. So again, this makes perfect sense, just because Aerys and Tywin had a pretty big history in the War of the Nine Penny Kings. And it really starts to be Tywin being kind of the person in charge. He's the one handling the debt with the Iron Bank, for instance. He is the one that is putting in laws, for instance. He puts in a bunch of repeals, reforming stuff from Aegon V. So again, he is the one that's really kind of in control. And that's one of the things that I think drives the Mad King mad, or Aerys mad, is because in reality, Tywin was playing the role of Otto in the Dance of the Dragons, where Tywin was the one really putting everything into motion. He was the one dictating, for instance, like taxes or whatever. And Aerys was not like Viserys. Aerys didn't really like that at all. And it kind of starts to create that rift between the two. I sang the Rains of Castamere at my audition. I think they got the message because I was accepted. Well, I remember that, Casper. Didn't you tell me you were going to do that? I remember in stream you saying you were going to do that. That's awesome, by the way. I'm glad you got accepted, though, because that's awesome. Tywin is Maegor. The difference is that Maegor is capable of love. Well, Tywin was capable of love with his cousin. But, yeah. Did Tywin fight in that war, the War of the Nine Penny? So I don't know if he actually saw, like, combat in the night. I know he was in there. He was at the Stepstones. He was a squire. And then he gets knighted in the Stepstones. I don't know if he was actually involved, like, in the actual fighting. I would assume he probably was, but I don't know. It chaps my ass that nobody accuses Tywin of being mad for eradicating House Reyne, but they say Dany is for executing slave owners who had brutally killed the children or set the children up for excruciating and slow deaths. Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Ashley. I think Tywin, to a degree, was mad. He was mad with power. He was mad with lust. But he was someone that, because he is more clever, because he's someone that's more calculated and smart, we tend to not think of the word mad. We just think of more like a dictator. And the idea with mad is that this Targaryens have that stigma because of the Mad King. So that's why Daenerys really gets more of it. Also, I really love the idea of chaps my ass. Ashley's on something tonight. I've been in the choir for over half a year now, and I'm loving it. Best decision I've ever made in a very long time, if not ever. Love to see that, Casper. We love to see you getting them wins. Can we all say congratulations to Casper, because that's he's doing things. He's going places. I want to see you singing in House of the Dragon. All right, so we get to this point where he's now Hand of the King. He's kind of getting buddy-buddy with the merchants. And in 263 AC, so this is 2 years kind of after the Tarbeck Rebellion stuff, he marries his cousin, Joanna Lannister. And we are told that this is really the only time we ever see Tywin smile, was the day that he wed Joanna. That's kind of crazy. But that shows you, like, I think the affection he really had towards her and how much that kind of continued to break him. Again, we also see that characters like Aerys lusted after Tywin's wife, Joanna. And he got a little handsy during the bedding custom, it was said. And we also learned that Rhaella Targaryen dismissed Joanna from her service. A lot of things happened very quickly, and people have come to the idea that, well, was Aerys doing some things with Joanna? Was Tyrion a product of the Mad King and Joanna? There are some similarities between Tyrion and the Targaryens. He has a very keen interest on the Targaryens and the dragons. And he, for one, is misshapen. And we see that the Targaryens have a lot of issues with the incest. Maybe it's possible. Aerys could have fixed that, but he couldn't go through with any of his plans. He knew he needed Tywin. I kind of agree. I swear, I can't stand Aerys Targaryen, the Mad King. I feel like that because of him, the Targaryens just don't deserve the throne anymore. The Blackfires would have done better. Yeah, I definitely think with the idea that the Targaryens, if you really look at a lot of their actions, especially for the last couple kings, leading up to Robert's Rebellion, a lot of them were in fear of losing the Targaryen dynasty and power. And that idea really plagues Aerys way more than other people. Like, for instance, Aegon V was someone that he feared that his children not feared, but he knew his children weren't doing what he wanted them to do. And he feared the losing of Targaryen power, which is kind of what we assume is the reason Summerhall happens, with him trying to bring back dragons, because Targaryens thought dragons are not the same when they had dragons. People couldn't really touch the Targaryens when they had dragons outside of the Targaryens, like we talk about in House the Dragon, specifically in the Dance of the Dragons. So it's kind of that idea with, I think, the Targaryens at this point. I believe Jaime and Cersei are his before Tyrion is, but I don't need any more. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Violet. I don't really like the theories that Tyrion's another secret Targaryen or Cersei and Jaime are Targaryens either. But it's an interesting theory. I do like to at least talk about it when we get to this point of Tywin's life. So, at this point, after the birth of Cersei and Jaime in 266 AC, Tywin's father, Tydos, dies at the age of 267 to a burst heart. And this was when he was going to visit his second mistress. So like I talk about, Tydos didn't have one mistress, he had two. This is the second one. Now this is the one that we talked about earlier that gets basically paraded around, the Walk of Atonement, all of that wonderful stuff. And she is then banished from the Westerland. And at this point, Tywin basically takes control of Casterly Rock, which he was pretty much already in control, but now in actual name, it passes to Tywin. And at this point, the relationship between Tywin and Aerys was depleting. It wasn't really going so good. And this all kind of culminates to around the year of 272 AC. 272 AC to like 273 AC. But yeah, even in this year, Tywin offered to resign in 272 AC, but Aerys refused him. That's interesting because, like what we just talked about in chat, is that Aerys couldn't really afford to get rid of Tywin because Tywin was in control. He was the one putting all these plans into action that maybe Aerys had. But getting into 273 AC, we see that Tyrion is born. Joanna dies. And this creates a big problem because Tywin's really only happiness we see is his wife. And that's kind of a major problem. Because now Tyrion, like Cersei blames him, and also Tywin does, blames Tyrion for Joanna's death. Let me get back into this. If dragons didn't go extinct and the Mad King wasn't mad, Tywin would still be pissed that House Lannister gets no dragon. Agreed. When was the court moved to Lannisport? So the court was moved in, I believe it was 267 AC when, or 267 AC when Tydos' father dies. I think that's when it gets moved there, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's when it is. Have you all heard of the theory that Tywin funded the Kingswood Brotherhood to try to kidnap? I have not, Jesse. That'd be interesting. I've never heard that theory. Ghost, that could be. The Maesters are very keen to doing those things. So yeah, I could see that. But yeah, so moving back in, also, the relationship was breaking down at this point in 272 AC 273, but it doesn't really completely break down really until, I guess, the later stages of the 270s, I guess. Because now we see at 276, at this tournament for Viserys' birth, Tywin tries to get Cersei married to Rhaegar, the heir to the throne at this point. So this was Tywin's power grab. This was Tywin trying to get his line on the throne. And Aerys is right to assume that was what was going on. Now, Aerys had other things that he didn't want, like his servants. He was very racist. He wanted the Targaryen bloodline on the throne. He wanted to keep the incest going, more or less. And he refuses. He just flat out refuses. And Aerys basically says, Tywin, you're basically a servant. That's basically what he tells him. And then he also goes even further and refuses to allow Jaime to become a squire for Rhaegar. So again, you just see that Tywin is not getting what he wants, and everything that he could seek to gain from his relationship with Aerys, not going so well. But yeah. Didn't Meleys eat his brother? I have no idea. I don't remember the exact history of Meleys. Hi, Haley. How are you? But that will continue us on. So, getting to some of this point. So, after we see that this betrothal is denied, Stefan Baratheon, who we've talked about a lot on these streams, dies. And that, again, if Aerys had just said, screw it, let me marry Cersei to Rhaegar, there wouldn't be no need for Stefan to go looking for this lost Targaryen, more or less, or some of old Valyria's blood, or Valyrian blood. So that could have been a major difference. If that happens, Stefan Baratheon and his wife, Cassandra, I think it's Cassandra, something like that, they wouldn't have died. So that is interesting. But even here, we get this idea that Aerys feared that Tywin had assassinated them somehow. Again, only playing on that idea of Aerys' madness and the way he was feeling about Tywin. And after this point, Tywin is no longer actually allowed within Aerys' presence alone. A Kingsguardman has to be present at all times. Now, Tywin then tries to betroth Jaime to Lysa, the second daughter of Hoster Tully, as we all know, the kooky one. But in 281 AC, Aerys raises Jaime to the Kingsguard, an obvious insult to Tywin and robbing him of his prized heir. Now, this could be another reason why Tywin didn't remarry up to this point, because if you think about it now, it's what, 281 AC? At this point, Tywin is now 41 years, or no, 242, so he would be like 39 at this point, I think. He's 39 now. He's kind of getting up there in age for trying to have another kid because Jaime now at this point gets taken as his heir. So again, another insult that's been thrown at Tywin. It's now, what, the third insult if you really want to chalk it up. And now Jaime is basically a hostage. It's really what it is. Jaime is basically a hostage. If Tywin steps out of line, maybe Jaime has a fall down the stairs. And Tywin basically goes into an isolation period. He is no longer Hand, and he basically sits at Casterly Rock and waits. Tywin and Stefan became enemies? No. What the thing is that I guess Aerys was thinking is that it was just like a power play by Tywin, more or less. Hey, oh, my boy is live. Let's go. Hi, Kurt. How are you? I need to read between the lines. Yes, I guess. Aerys said I had to marry a Targaryen to be miserable. Then his son has to. Yes. I'm sure Tywin did his job as Hand of the Mad King fairly and only tried to swindle him using Cersei, and that's why he doesn't trust Tywin. Yeah, I agree. When did Tywin plan for Jaime to marry Lysa? Was that before or after losing the handship? It was before. Jesse. I say the World of Ice and Fire, but T-Wolf does sound cool. Or T-Wolf, I guess. Is how you're saying that, I guess. T-Wolf would be cooler, though. But, yeah. So, like I said, Tywin pretty much stays completely out of the war. He waits till the Battle of the Trident, and he makes his move. They sack King's Landing. They kill the children, present them to Robert to get favor from Robert for, again, joining the war late. And then Cersei gets married to Robert, and Tywin's pretty cool with this. Tywin now has his line on the throne. It's what he originally wanted with Aerys. And now he can kind of sit back. He can sit back at Casterly Rock. He can rule from there and do all that. And that kind of gets us into the main story. We see some notable events happen with, like, the Greyjoy Rebellion, with, say, Tyrion being wed to a common girl. Tywin a little not so happy with that, but it really reflects who he is. And that's kind of where I'm going to end the stream. I don't really want to talk about the current day of Tywin because, again, we know what happens there. This was kind of a go back in time for what Tywin is as a person. I'd like to see a conversation between Stannis and Tyrion. Yeah, they're very similar characters when it comes to their demeanor, on like things like fear and love. But I think morally, I think the two are like kind of vastly different. It'd be interesting. Yeah, this is basically him sitting back in retirement until Cersei kind of fucks that up a little, but, you know. So you think the Red Wedding objectively was not a good move by Tywin? And I can definitely see what you mean by that. For Tywin, this is kind of a moment where it's like he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. He didn't have to participate in it, but everybody knows he was part of it type thing. And the real idea here is that Tywin just as easily could have defeated Robb with the Tyrells, but it would have taken longer. It wouldn't have secured his regime as quickly. Was it the smarter play? Yes. The other issue here is, would Tywin have gotten the chance to install someone under the crown's rule in the north. Because again, remember, Robb's plan was to go north, to retake the north. If Robb's to the north, Tywin's not stupid enough. He's not going to invade the north. So Tywin may have seen this as kind of his last shot to actually take out the Starks and to put his own line or someone that was loyal to him on the northern pedestal, like the Boltons. I don't know. I think, to me, I think it was a good move with Tywin knowing all the information that he knows. If Tywin knew that Arya was still alive, that a character like Rickon was still alive, Bran was alive, it's not a good move because there's another Stark to rally behind. But with the information he has, I think it's a decent move. Tywin is like an evil Stannis, like Roose. Yes, Roose and Tywin are very similar. Very similar characters. But yeah, guys, that is going to be the end of the stream. I hope you guys all enjoyed. We'll be back next week with another stream on Monday. Maybe a chaotic stream because that'll be finals week for me. But, you know, we'll get through it. And also, thank you guys all for coming in. We're going to be doing, let me think what the videos are doing today, or this week. We're going to be doing Jon 3. That's one of my favorite chapters so far of the reread, so I hope you guys enjoy that. And we'll be doing some other videos that I'll leave a surprise for now. But yeah, thank you guys all for joining. I'll see you guys all